Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Let's Talk About It, our Thursday night platform. We're grateful tonight to the Lord for blessing us to see another Thursday night, and we're happy tonight to have part two tonight on Let's Talk About It. Major Eric King. I'm going to allow him to come and introduce himself for those who did not get a chance to hear him last week, but his message was so strong and so powerful. We wanted to come back and do part two this week because he had so much wrapped up in his story. So I'm going to allow him to come on and introduce himself, and then we're going to get right into our talk show tonight. Can't hear you.
Yeah, I was still muted there. Apologize. Hey Bishop, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing fine, sir. How are you?
I'm doing outstanding. I would tell you that hoodie looks fantastic on you.
It feels fantastic, man.
Hey, you got a big smile on my face. I thank you for your support, brother. Appreciate it so much. Also, thanks for having me on again. Another great night here. As Bishop said, I was here last week for part one, and I'm blessed and gracious enough for him to bring me back here on part two. I am Major Retired Eric King, served in the United States Army for 16 years. During that time, real quickly, of my 16 years of service, I had 3 combat tours over in combat, 2 to Iraq, 1 to Afghanistan, and so many other things I've done during my time in uniform. But one of the significant things that have me here right now today is that I was injured over in combat by being struck by a improvised explosive device, an IED, which led me to having post-traumatic stress disorder, traumatic brain injury, which is a reminder for me every day that I wake up, look in the mirror. This knot here reminds me of that day. Of that, it resulted to residuals of seizure disorders, migraines, other things that I deal with from time to time. But I'm very fortunate to be here. The good Lord saw fit to keep me here to continue to serve his purpose and be a shepherd for him. And as I went through my recovery and as I went through transitioning from being in the military, of all the things that I had the opportunity to do to serve my country, there was a time I felt in a real bad place, but the good Lord brought me out of it. And I'm here right now today. And with that, I began a nonprofit organization, as you see on Bishop's hoodie there and on mine, Best What's Next. And Best What's Next is a nonprofit organization that provides services, resources, benefits, and so much more to disabled veterans, homeless veterans, those that are still serving, as well as their family members. And it's from personal experiences of mine from being in the military, transitioning out of the military, and also from where I'm at right now today. So that's pretty much who I am. You can read more about me through my bio at www.bestwhatsnext.org and just click on the about the founder, and yeah, you can read more about me.
Okay, excellent. T, if you can put that in the drop box for us tonight, so those who want to get to read his bio, they can have the link to get to it. Thank you for coming back to do part two with us tonight. Your story was so strong last week. The Lord pressed it upon me to bring you back this week because there was so much that we couldn't unpack last week that I think is vital to all of our hearers and those who are listening and watching tonight from Zoom and from Facebook Live. You talked about your tours over in Iraq and about the accident that you had with the bombs. Tell us a little bit about how that accident and hitting that bomb, how did it leave you, and what are some of the things that you deal with now as a result of that accident?
Great question. Well, during that time, it left me in a state of mind that, well, first, I was trying to figure out why I was still here. Why did I survive that?
How many was in the accident with you?
So we was on a mission, and there are four vehicles and a convoy. Of this particular, there were a couple others I also, lived through, but this particular one, there was four vehicles. I was the second vehicle, and we were struck, and it left several great men in bad situations, to include some even, not even leaving the battlefield the way they went on to the battlefield. But it left me in a state of mind of why am I still here after seeing what I saw. It also left me in a state of mind where I lived with for a long time, the guilt that came with that because I was in charge of that mission. I was commander on ground at that time. So the biggest thing it left me with the guilt of what happened to my soldiers under my leadership on that mission was what could I have done differently? And for so long, I had lived with that where I would find myself rewriting the mission, rewriting it in the sense of we could have taken a different route. We could have left at a later time or earlier time. We just could have done things just differently. My lieutenant at the time said to me before that mission, actually, before we went out, that he and his men and his platoon were tired. They were fatigued and they didn't want to go out. And I said to my LT, well, your platoon is the more refreshed platoon out of the four platoons. So you'll be going out on the mission because we had been humping. We had been going full force, for a while, right? And I said, well, I'll be going out on the mission with you, but you will be executing this mission. And as we was coming back to the fob, and boom, we got hit. And as we were putting the wounded in the back of the medevac vehicle, my lieutenant was one of those who was injured. And he looked up to me and said, this is all your fault. And at that time, I didn't quite understand why he would, put that burden on me. I took that because I was the commander, but I knew at that time of what he was going through, what he just saw, what he felt, the injuries that he had sustained. He didn't mean what he had said as we talked about it years later, but I lived with that. I lived with that for a long time. I wore that guilt on me, which led me into a depression, deep depression, where I even went to take my own life from behind that. One, the guilt. Two, what happened. Three, it happened under my watch, under my leadership, under my command. And I just let it, just overwhelm me and get to me. And that's when I knew as I was fighting through that I had some things going on with my life, as it also impacted my livelihood and impacted my family. I was even told by my family that something was wrong because there was a shift and change in my behavior. I knew it, but I just didn't want to accept it because why? I was this leader in this position. And I felt like, I don't show that side of me as I thought, which was, I guess I could say, I don't want to say stupid, but it was the arrogance, I would say, that led me to not want to accept that there was something deep going on with me and I needed that help because it impacted my family. I even went through a divorce behind a lot of what I was going through with my family. Just pushed a lot of people away, feel like you have to walk on eggshells, can't slam cabinet doors, can't slam a door, can't walk up on me. And I knew that was a turning point for me because it had led me to being hospitalized from my injuries, being hospitalized for 52 days, to get out of the hospital for 8 days, have to go back into the hospital for 14 days as they're running all these tests on me from the traumatic brain injury to the PTSD and all those things. It just led me to a very, very bad place at that time.
And after slowly recovering from all of those injuries, after 50 some days being in the hospital, you said it left you dealing with depression.
Yeah.
And we all know that mental illness it hits all of us in one way or another. If it's not in a personal way, it hits our family members. And can you tell us a little bit about your experience dealing with mental illness. And for you, what are some of the uh, how can you tell it's about to come on? Like you can start out having a good day. What is it that bring you down?
Well, at that particular time back then, because right now I'm in a better place where I can control it. I have ownership of it now. At one point, I did, and when I say I have ownership of it now, is I'm not afraid, to deal with it, to talk about it, to let it out. I see a counselor, right now. I take medication for it right now. If I feel like that there are stressors or triggers that are coming on, I use different type of coping skills that will help me, you know, cope with what that I'm dealing with at that particular time. But back then, I didn't know how to deal with it because I was in denial. And a lot of time with us having, a mental disorder, mental illness, or mental injury, as it was traumatic, post-traumatic stress disorder. Now it's post-traumatic stress injury. They say there's two different things, and I experienced them both because I was in my own way from getting the help. So one true story, when I knew this was after my first combat tour in Iraq. Mind you, I'm an infantry officer serving on the front lines. Saw a lot, did a lot. And when I came back, I'm being told by friends, close folks of mine in my circle, family, you acting a little strange, you're acting differently. Things about you aren't how they used to be. And I would tell anybody right now, anybody that goes see combat, you go into a combat environment, when you come back home, you're not the same, even if you think you are, because I thought I was. So when I knew I had to get help, when I found myself self-medicating myself by, trying to mask what I was going through with alcohol, right, which wasn't the right thing to do at that time, but that was my way of trying to hide it and cover it up. And so when I went to get help for the very first time, and I'm walking down the hall in what we call behavioral health over in the Army, which is the mental health facility. I said, well, let me go ahead and just let them do an evaluation or assessment on me to see what's going on. And I run into a soldier of mine, and he was like, hey, Captain King, I was captain at the time. What are you doing here? I said, well, I'm checking on a soldier. Oh, okay then, sir. Well, we'll see you back in the motor pool. Well, I was there for myself, but I didn't want the soldiers to go back to the formation and say, I just saw the commander over in behavior health getting some help. Is this the guy we want to follow in combat? So I denied it. I hid it. I walked away. I didn't even go in to see the doc. I was at that point a no call, no show, because I didn't want that stigma at that time that was associated with mental illness to impact my ability to command my troops and lead them in combat. So that is when I knew there were some issues, but I failed to get the help that I needed. And had I hadn't gotten the help that I needed, it probably could have done a couple of different things. I don't know. But I do know it possibly would have prevented, the next injury that I had sustained in combat, where if it would have been addressed early on, I probably would have known how to deal with it after I experienced my second traumatic event downrange. So all these things were just building up inside of me to the point where it got to the point where I couldn't control it anymore myself.
Pretty transparent story. I appreciate you being transparent. For those who may be listening and feel like it's tough for them to talk about their mental illness. And when you talked about earlier, now you can manage it with coping skills. What are some of those coping skills you're referring to?
So for me, and it works for all different types of people, but for me, take a time out to meditate, right? You do some meditation, you do some breathing skills. You step away from what is bringing on those different triggers, right? For me, I step away from it. I do some, 30 to 45 seconds to 60 seconds breathing skills. I will even, when I can, when these old joints of mine will allow me to, even just go for a run or go for a walk or do a small rug march of myself for myself, or just sit down and just no TV, no anything, no distractions, and step away from it. And you know, science has provided some good medication to allow you to also calm the anxiety or calm the depression of feeling depressed or whatever you're going through at that time. So and I call my therapist if I need to on the spot. Uh, my biggest therapist is my mother, I believe. I'll call my mom and talk to my mom, or I'll just call and talk to someone who is very close to me in my circle who will be a shoulder and a sounding board for me versus someone who would be judgmental. And that's one of the things I tell people who deal with mental illness. You have to be very careful with who you share your story with, or who you talk to, who you entrust, who's your trusted agent, because you don't want anybody to judge what you're going through, where they can use it against you for the benefit of themselves. So you have to be very careful about, who you're just going to utilize as a trusted agent, who's just going to more so be there to embrace you and love you and say, hey, I'm here with you. We'll get through this together.
Yeah, it's important to have a good support system around you. You talked earlier about the medication that you take. Some people, they have a hard time with their medication. How can you encourage somebody that's watching and listening tonight how important it is to be faithful to taking your medication?
Well, again, I'll just say for me, I mean, there's just well as there's pain management, there's medication management. Some folks refuse to take meds, and that's their prerogative. But they may find other ways of how they can cope with them, with whatever they're going through. I mean, that was me at one time. I was on medication for so long that I'm like, I don't need to have these meds in order for me to function. So I got off my meds, right? And I was off my meds for a little while till it got to the point where all the things that they had put me on medication for, started coming back. And my health began to go down. Other things began to happen. Well, I'm like, okay, there's a shift in my health. So I'll go back and I see both doctors, my primary care physician, my mental health. And I just had to be honest with them, like, so how long you been, no, the question was, so have you been taking your meds? Nope. Why haven't you? Because I don't need them. Yeah, you need them. So for me, and you have to know yourself, like, depending on what your illnesses are or whatever it is that you're going through, if it's that special type of medication that you need to take, you have to determine for yourself if you need that, and how healthy you want to be, how productive you want to be, how impactful you want to be to others, how you want to be able to fit into society and function in a way where you can be able to function. And, again, for me, some of my meds I just have to take in order for me to do that when I need to take them. So I will encourage folks that if you need to take them, take them. Don't, because it was me. I'm like, I don't want folks judging me because I have to live off these pills or I have to take this every day. Some mornings I will feel I am lethargic. I really can't function the way I want to function. And that's when you go back and you have those conversations with your doctor to say, well, this makes me feel this way, and I don't want to feel this way. I want the medication to be able to keep me balanced, right? So I can function, but I don't want to not be able to not function with taking the medicine, because a lot of times that's what causes people to not want to take, certain medication because of how the side effects have them to feel. But that's when you go back and you had a conversation, you annotate, note your stuff, write it down, and you go back and you have that conversation with your doctor. It's making me feel this way. Let's try something different.
try something different, or they can tweak it to
Right.
bring some balance in your life.
Right.
You know, you talked earlier about um, how this accident affected you and your family, and you ended up getting a divorce. For those that might be watching tonight, um, since the divorce, do you still have contact with your family? Are y'all friends now, or?
Oh, absolutely. We are great, the best of friends. And here's why, though, Bishop. Anyone who experienced anything, whether you're military or not, experienced something traumatic in your life, a lot of times, believe it or not, we hurt those who love us the most than we will hurt anybody else. Why? Because it's familiarity. You know, that person know us, and that person is trying to be there, but we're started pushing away to get that help that that person is trying to direct us to go and get help, or bringing out things that we are in denial of. And with that denial comes with pushback, come with hurt, you know, come with just making that home very uncomfortable. And so one of the things I had to do after we went through our divorce, as it was, you know, pretty much a mutual thing of it, but it was, I had just brought so much bad tension within the family, right? But I had to come back and apologize. I had to be very sincere about it. And I had to take ownership of my behavior during that time of what I was going through. And she understood, like, well, I knew that wasn't you, but I had to give you that to get through what you was going through. And sometimes we can lose everything that we have to realize exactly what we had, right? God takes us through some things. When you want to talk about the turmoil or being, you know, beat up, taken through, however you want to title it, you can go through it to come out of it a better person. And when I went through that transformation for me, it brought me out a better person because I was able to step outside of my own way and look back at that person that I had become because of what I had experienced, because of what I had mentally went through, because of just all those things. I said, man, I don't want to be that person no more. I can't be that person. I'm not only killing myself, I'm killing everybody around me in a sense, right? Because they're stressed, they're frustrated, they're hurt. You know, it's traumatic for them. And I had to look back and say, man, I don't want to be that person. I have to do this for myself. I have to do this for those who love me the most in order for me to be effective.
For those who are watching and listening tonight, I want to give you an opportunity to chime in with any question you have for Major King. Based on what you've heard so far tonight, if you wasn't able to tune in for part one, we're trying to hit some areas that we didn't hit last week. But if you have some questions, type them in the chat box. He can see them, I can see them, we'll read them, and we'll get the answer to your questions. So I'll keep talking, and if you have any questions that you want to ask, please do so by typing it in the chat box. Or if you're on Facebook Live, type it in. I'll get the question, they'll get it to me, so we can make sure you get an answer to it. You talked about, one of the things we talked about last week, we didn't get into it, and this is why I brought you back for part two. For some who are watching tonight that may not really understand, they've heard the term, they've heard a little bit about it, but talk to us about the post-traumatic stress that you experience, and tell us a little bit about it for somebody that don't know what it is.
Well, for me, PTSD is one of those things that affect everybody differently. For me, it affected me in a sense where I was just guarded. It was at a point from being in Iraq, riding in what we call, start off in M1151, which is a upgraded Humvee, as most folks know as a Humvee, but upgraded Humvee. But you know, you have in that combat environment during that time where you have suicide bombers, VBID, vehicle-borne IED, ride up alongside you, get in your convoy, and then blow themselves up. So coming back to the States, another thing which was a trigger, like even just riding in the car, a vehicle ride up on me, I'm thinking, man, okay, this is a threat. Something bad is about to happen, because my mind mentally went back to Iraq. So I couldn't even ride in vehicles like that for a while. I just didn't trust anybody walking up on me. Again, I went back to the slamming of cabinet doors or the slamming of a door. And sometimes that's still, like now, would throw me off. But I'm in a better place that I can, assess the situation and see that, okay, I'm not in a place that it's a threat for me. It was that fireworks for a long time. I still don't too much deal with them, but my kids like them. So I, at times, when I muster up the courage to do it, I do it, and keep myself at a point where I can tolerate it. Certain smells was a trigger for me, and what it would do with all of that, though, it brought about aggression. It brought about anger, and the anger for me came about where I was still living with this guilt, and I was fighting myself on how could I have done things differently that I would, how can I put it? I would just, anybody who meant me well, I felt like they didn't mean me well because they didn't understand what I had went through and what I had experienced. They couldn't relate to me. I felt like you didn't have the best interest. I shouldn't even be, and if they believe that I shouldn't even be here. There are great men who sacrificed their lives, who died on the battlefield, and I'm not even deserving to be here. So as I'm beating myself up, I'm forcing others to not want to be around me, to not like me, because I just want to push everything away from me because I didn't have the liking for myself or the love for myself at that time.
So now that we have heard your testimony, let's get to, okay, there's a question. What is the difference between post-traumatic stress and
PTSD and PTSI?
Yeah.
So post-traumatic stress disorder and post-traumatic stress injury. The PTSI is something new that just came about. To me, and this is just me, when you have people who want to, those decision makers who want to put their name on something, you have folks that want to change the name to things to say, well, I came up with this from my studies to say that, okay, a disorder is saying that you are unable to function in a way that you should be able to function versus an injury. An injury is just that you can bounce back from that injury and you can be able to progress and move on with your life. I don't know. All I can say is whether it's post-traumatic stress disorder or post-traumatic stress injury, you're not going to be the same, point blank, period. And I say that because with my disorder, with my injury, if I stop doing the things that my doctor said that I have to do, I'm not going to go back to being the person that I once was. So to better answer that question, to me, I don't think it's a difference. I just think if someone want to change the word from glad to happy, when it both mean the same thing.
Okay. Now, after we've heard your testimony, tell us how, and you talked about at moments in your life where you felt like there was so much guilt you didn't want to live. But obviously we know now that God had purpose for you. And another question has come in the box, and I'll get to that question, but let me put this out and then you can come back to mine after you answer the question. We know now that out of everything that you experienced, God did have a purpose for you. And that's where FET's What Next came in. So I want you to talk about a little bit about that. But let's look and see what this question is in the box. Can you see it?
I'll pull it up. It disappeared. Have you been able to reach someone personally to affect positive change in their life? Absolutely, I have. I've met people directly and indirectly where I've been able to, change their life and put them in a better direction, put them on the path to success. And I've done it by doing this right here, sharing my story, by letting those who have experienced exactly what I have experienced, and far more worse, by letting them know that it is okay to not be okay. Now, what are you going to do about it? When I asked them that, they said, "What do you mean? Yeah, what are you going to do about it? Got it. You went through that. I went through it. Now, what you going to do about it right now?" And it left them with that question to themselves, like, "Well, I'm going to get help. Okay, how are you going to get help? What are you going to do to get help? Let's go. I'm going to go with you." So, yes, I've personally done that directly and indirectly. And I hope to continue to do that, which also goes into the question that Bishop just asked me regarding best what's next. So after going through personally what I experienced myself with combat, transitioning from the military, trying to fit myself into the civilian sector, becoming a civilian from going from, my successes in the military, because I will say I did fairly well in the military. I've done the military well. But I had a general officer call me a couple of weeks ago, asked me if I want to come and work for him. I said, "Nah, I'm serving a different purpose right now." But out of all those things that I went through, and I was trying to figure out, now that I'm no longer Major King, I'm just Eric in this civilian world that people drive by, they don't know me, right? I'm just regular Joe. And I said to myself, I sat up in my bed and I was like, "Well, what's next for me?" And I said, "Well, Eric, that's selfish. It's not what's next for you. It's what's next for all of those who have served before you, those who are currently serving, and those who will serve after you." And so the name That's What's Next was derived from that. So I need to have something that is going to be all encompassing for everybody. And so I began to, from my own personal experiences of trying to figure out what services and resources and all those good things that were available for me that I found very frustrating, going through my laptop and being on my phone trying to figure out what those services were. It frustrated the mess out of me that I pushed away from the computer, put down the phone. I'm like, there has to be a better way. So after I had figured it out for myself, I said, what can I do to help streamline the process to make things a lot easier for all those who are part of the 1% who serve in our great country? So with the name Best What's Next, I said, I'm going to put a website together that's going to provide all these services in one consolidated hub, right? And so as we build the website and went from there, I said, well, what's my target audience? Well, the target audience is millennial veterans and Gen X veterans, because our senior veterans are the ones you see in the VA every day that you go to the VA. Our senior veterans have figured it out, which they had to figure out the hard way. But as our senior veterans began to phase out and the Gen X taking their place and the millennials taking their place and those who are getting ready to serve to take their place, so we got to make things easier and better. So I took the model of Amazon. I said, I'm going to replicate what Amazon has done, that anything that you need, you can go to Amazon, type it in the search, it's going to pop up. But why can't we do that for veterans with the services that are available for them? Because there are so many great Americans who provide so many great services to us veterans. But how do we get those services to the veteran community and the veteran population? I said, well, through the website. Oh, by the way, now we need a mobile application. So then I began to build a mobile application, which is in the Apple iOS store and the Google Play store right now today. And what that's going to do is be able to bridge that gap between the Department of Defense and Department of Veteran Affairs. Because when you leave the Department of Defense and you go to the Department of Veteran Affairs, you're no longer having anybody to hold your hand and tell you exactly what you have to do each and every day, like we're being told we're in the military each and every day. Well, that gap filler or that bridge builder between there is that mobile app, right? You download the app and whatever you need, you click on it, it is going to be able to provide you those services at the click of a button through that app. One other great thing about it is we provide services through there for the active duty service members that 180 days prior to getting out of the military, you can apply for your VA disability through the pre-discharge program. What they're going to do is once you apply for those benefits, you get out of the military on a Monday. come that Tuesday, you can have your VA disability rating already ready for you. So by that next month, you're already receiving your benefits entitlements. You have a decision already made. You have your health care. You have enrolled into the VA healthcare system, because so many veterans get out of the military and don't enroll into the VA healthcare system because a lot of them don't know about it. A lot of them think they're not entitled to it. A lot of them say, well, once I get out the military, I'll go to the VA later. And then later becomes 24 months, 36 months. Then when they do go to the VA and they put in a claim, that claim is denied because they went so long and there's no lineage. So here's the big thing that brings about. It brings about frustrated veterans saying that I've served my country, now my country isn't serving me back. That's why we experience 17 to 22 veterans a day that are taking their lives because they're frustrated with the system. They've lost hope. They've lost trust. They said, I've served my country isn't serving me back. I can't get my benefits. I have a family to take care of. I'm giving up. And they take their lives. Some even do it right in front of the VA because they're trying to send a clear message that you have failed me. And in a sense, they have been failed. And I feel that it is my duty, my job, and my purpose that the good Lord has put me on this path to say, what can you do about it to help with that? And that is what Best What's Next is doing. It's providing an all-inclusive, consolidated hub that before getting out of the military, go through this and get the benefits that you need. I didn't make up the benefits, they're already there. We just went and did the research and the homework to bring it to this one centralized location. Or if you're already out of the military and you're still going through that transition and you're trying to figure out where to go to get the things that you need, well, you go just like you would for Amazon, you go to Best What's Next and you get those benefits. And that's just what we do through the mobile application and the website. But outside of that, we also get into the community where we go out and we assist and help our veterans, our homeless veterans, disabled veterans, with food, shelter, providing them the resources that they need by working with those organizations or those services that provide shelter to homeless veterans, transitioning veterans. Even like right now, we're running our Give Back campaign where veterans will be able to, for Christmas, receive a gift wrapped hoodie, such as the one that you have on, the one that I have on. We'll gift wrap them and we'll take them to those veterans on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. We send care packages over to veterans, service members who are deployed, because there's nothing like getting a care package in the mail while you're deployed. The third thing that we're also doing is, again, feeding the homeless. We just kicked off our Best What's Next Higher Scholarship Education Foundation, where we will provide a scholarship of $4,000 a year, $2,000 per semester, to a disabled veteran dependent who is going to college, to try to help with that offset of their tuition costs. Whether their tuition is paid in full or not, there's still a day-to-day cost that our veterans dependents go through. Why do I know this? Because I have kids in college myself, and I know some of the things that they need that isn't being covered by their tuition being paid. And that's just Best What's Next again, stepping in and filling the gap, filling that void, being the bridge builder to help make a change. So this thing we're here will just live on as long as it can for years and years to come. Because we're just in the business, I'm in the business of leaving a legacy behind, being a servant and a shepherd for God, and letting our veterans know that there is life after the military.
There's a question in the chat box. Can you see it?
You said that you were.
Now I'll read it while you're looking at it so all of our viewers can hear it. You stated that you were a no-show for your first appointment. What made you reschedule to get help, and how can you help or talk with someone else?
Well, what made me go back is when I had pretty much lost it all. When I had a breakdown. So when I had my breakdown after well, I was hospitalized after I was a no-show. I was hospitalized for my TBI and the PTSD. Still not getting the help that I needed for my PTSD. After being hospitalized and trying to go along, when I had a mental breakdown, And with that mental breakdown, it left me no choice but to go back and get that mental health services that I needed. I pretty much was forced. I pretty much was told by my chain of command, my leadership, that I was being voluntold that you will go and seek help.
Okay. You see the second piece to that question?
If someone is in denial, how do we help them see what we are seeing? It's having a conversation with them. Try to figure out when is the best time to really sit down and talk to the individual. It all depends on what your relationship is. If you don't have that type of relationship with that individual, talk to someone who has that type of relationship with that individual, and sit down and talk to the individual, and just, again, don't go at them as you're being judgmental, but go at them as you have a genuine love and care for what's going on with them. Also, too, I would tell friends and family members who are being impacted by someone who have served or is serving, and they see a difference in their behavior because they see signs of PTSD. They too can go and get help. They can go see a counselor, provider that can also help them on how to help deal with that situation at home. Far too often, our loved ones don't go and get help for themselves because they also ashamed of it, or they also live by the stigma. But they have to learn and know how to deal with that individual. In order for them to do that, they have to go and seek out those professional services that will assist them in it. But again, to help that person that's in denial, have to sit down and have a candid conversation with them. And notice I said a conversation, was a two-way conversation. You're not talking at them, you're talking with them. You're showing a genuine love and care to bring something to their attention, and just tell them, hey, we're going to go and do X, Y, and Z. We're going to go and sit down and talk to someone to get some help, not only for you, but for us.
And I would also say, and this is across the board, that if sometimes it's easier to have someone else to talk to, a family member, than you. And if you can't get through to them, I would pray and ask God to deal with their heart. For God to deal with their heart in such a way that they won't become so combative when you are trying to reach out and help them. Sometimes God has to use someone else outside of the family to talk to those that you are so close to. So if you're listening tonight and you're dealing with that situation, it might be somebody else that might be better off in talking to them. But all at the same time, don't feel like you are helpless and you can't do anything. You can pray and ask God to soften their heart. And in the midst of God softening their heart, if God don't use you after softening their heart, then he will use someone else. But whatever you do, don't give up, because those who are suffering with mental illness or whatever it is that they might be dealing with, they need our support. And whether it might be from a distance or close up. So if you can't get through, don't give up, but at least make sure you're praying for them, and maybe someone else God will use to come to their aid. You talked about the homeless, and last week you mentioned, and we didn't get a chance to unpack this, but you said a lot of the millennials are homeless that comes out of the military. What is it that put them in that place? And you said a lot of them you won't see on the street, but you'll see them in their cars. What is it that have caused them to get to that place?
Well, from conversations I've had with millennial homeless veterans, what caused them or put them in that state is a couple of different things: hopelessness, ashamed, refuse to go and get help because they don't want to be judged. So they try to fight it out themselves. The lack of them not knowing what services are available for them. the stigma that's associated with the Department of Veteran Affairs that, believe it or not, a lot of them have said this thing to me. Well, I don't go to the VA because I'm not old enough to go to the VA. And you're wrong. You are. You're a veteran. I don't care if you're 19. A lot of them say, well, you go to the VA, you're going to die. And you're wrong. We got to change that myth because there are great Americans that are working in the VA to meet your need. A lot of them feel that they're not old enough to even go to the VA. So what that does is they don't want to reach out for help to say, man, I really need help. Can you help me? Or can you help me get a job? Because being in the military, you are looked at as being a professional. And then when you're no longer in the military, which a lot of our young soldiers who get out of the military, a lot of them, you know, get out of the military on a bad discharge. So they don't want to let folks know that, yeah, instead of me, you know, completing my term and getting out, they don't want to tell people I got kicked out of the military. So there are certain benefits that they are not entitled to, but they are entitled to VA health care. But a lot of them will lose out on certain benefits that it's hard for them to get a job. Their DD-214 may not have a honorable characterization. It may be dishonorable. So it's a struggle for them to get a job. A lot of them are dealing with mental health issues, and they don't want to go and get the help that they need because why? The younger millennial crowd are more so worried about what you have to say about them versus what they have to say about themselves. So they try to shy away from it. They go and hide. They fall into the state of depression. They fall into the state of losing hope, giving up on themselves, don't trust anybody, don't want anybody to say that, man, he was in the military, she was in the military. Now look where he or she is. And these are the conversations I have with them that, you know, get out of your own way, remove yourself from the negativity of those that shouldn't be in your circle because they don't mean you any good. You have to surround yourself around positive energy. You have to surround yourself around people who mean you good and they are there to help you. And just last week, a student there at Texas State, as I have partnered with Texas State with my Best What's Next project, a student was going through just what I'm talking about right now. And he in the school reached out and said, hey, I'm going through this. I'm homeless. I put on this facade that I'm living this way, and I'm not, because I don't want my friends to have anything negative to say. And I surrender, I give up. How can I get help? And we was able to get him the help that he needs. And he's just one of thousands that experienced that.
We have another question in the chat box. Can you see it?
Yeah, what are the signs of PTSD and PTSI? Well, for PTSD, again, interchangeable to me, they're the same. But there are signs of, first sign, depression. Is a sign is depression, being guarded, want to do things that are not of the norm. They start doing things that's not of them what they were used to do. Not being able to sleep, up at night, up during the day. For me, I was up at night because that's when the enemy is most likely to attack during my time. We fight at night in the combat environment, fight at night. So for me, when I was going through it, I was up at night because I felt like when I went to sleep at night, something bad was going to happen. And that's just all PTSD. When you are afraid to go to sleep because you don't want to deal with the nightmares and the night terror. So if you have a loved one or if you're a veteran yourself, and you're experiencing these nightmares and these night terrors, and you're waking up in sweats, or you're waking up and you don't know where you are. You're waking up and physically you're at home, but mentally you're back over there. That's a sign. But for me, I didn't want to go to sleep because I didn't want to deal with the nightmares and night terrors before I was able to get things to help with that. And then when it got so bad, and I was ready to go to sleep, and I didn't want to wake up out of the sleep. So I didn't want to go to sleep to deal with the nightmares and night terrors. And then I wanted to go to sleep because I didn't want to go to sleep because I didn't want to deal with what I was going to be facing the next day. I was tired. I was tired of going through that, living that life. The brain, the mind works in so many different ways. You can say, I would never be in that state. That'll never happen to me. Well, that was me. I said that'll never happen to me. And it did. Just how the brain works. And so, yeah, those are some of the things that you'll begin to recognize from PTSD, where you don't want to go around places. Your loved one will say, hey, we're going to visit so-and-so, and you don't want to go and visit. You don't want to be in large crowds. It took a long time for me to even be in large crowds. I personally experienced being over in combat in a large crowd where there was a suicide bomber came up and detonated himself and, took out a lot of folks. I didn't even deal with animals for a long time. During my time in combat, one of their TTPs, which is their technical procedures, well, they started stuffing dogs with IEDs. And we'll go up and pet the dogs and they'll detonate the dog. So for a long time, it took me to be around animals. It took me a long time to go around crowds. And that was a sign of PTSD.
Okay. I hope that answered your question. Next question I have for you is, how do you persuade the VA that what you are doing is a direct result of what happened to you while serving in the military? We've heard all these stories about people just going in circles trying to get the help that they need. And sometimes they say, well, this has nothing to do with the VA. How do you persuade the VA that what I'm dealing with, it was a result of me being in the military?
Yeah, and it's unfortunate and it's so disheartening that we even have to persuade the VA that this knee injury, this back injury, this head injury, or whatever I'm going through did indeed happen while I was in the military. And so many have to prove that in order to get that compensation, in order to get that benefit that they are entitled to. But the way you have to just do it is you have to continue to go and fight for what is yours. You don't give up on it. So many get a denial letter 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, but you have to continue to go back. You go and talk to your county clerk, BSO, which is a veteran service organization that is there to assist veterans with submitting their VA claim for their benefits. You can go through the DAV. You can go right to the VA. There are other organizations that, even if you go through the Best What's Next app, that will help you find those organizations to help you, one, write up your VA claim the way it needs to be written up, the proper documents to support that claim, any medical records that you have, anything that from when you was in the military, or if you was downrange, foreign statements, all the, even certain type of awards that you get. Like for me, one of the many awards, I got a CIB, which is a Combat Infantryman's Badge. Well, I found myself, the reason I say that is because I found myself trying to justify an injury that I had. That CIB is only awarded to infantrymen who have been in a conflict with the enemy. So with that CIB is written up in that order that I was awarded, that this is what happened. And that is what had to help justify that particular claim. So one, you don't give up, you keep going, you keep fighting. And so many of us veterans, which goes back to what I mentioned earlier, take their own lives because they give up. Like, why am I still fighting for my benefits? Why should I have to persuade them that it happened? And I just tell veterans now that prior to getting out of the military, 180 days before getting out, or the minute you know you're getting out, after that 180-day mark that you're getting out, apply for your benefits then while you're still in uniform, while you're still on active duty or National Guard or Reserve. If you don't do it during that time, as soon as you get out, your first stop should be at your local VA. So you can go and enroll into that VA healthcare system. And then they can begin the process of not only enrolling you, but allowing you to put in that claim, because everything is still fresh at that time. And just keep up with your medical records.
Okay, our time is running out. And I want to first thank everybody for joining in tonight, Facebook and Zoom. I'm sure you will agree with me how much of an impact Major King's story is, and his testimony, how powerful, and his transparency of all that he's had to endure and that he's gone through. And I want to say thank you for coming back part two tonight and sharing with us. We got some valuable information tonight, and we appreciate you and what you're doing. I'm repping one of your shirts tonight. Feel proud to wear it. Look forward to ordering some more. And this is one of the things that we're doing. Also, my son-in-law and my daughter, they started their own business, and on Wednesday night on that platform, they always recognize a shirt that they're wearing, of entrepreneur organization or group that have started their own job or business. And so we want to try and represent, especially our African Americans. And so I'm repping tonight for Vets What's Next. I'm proud to do it. And for those who are watching and listening, you'll get some more information coming. We're going to try to do a drive for veterans for Thanksgiving and for Christmas. So look out for more information to come to you. We'll make sure those who are watching on Facebook, if you want to be a part of what we're going to do as far as giving back to veterans, if there is a widow out who was married to someone that was in the military, we want to help them as well. I got a call earlier this morning. I want to give a shout out to Michael Sturdivant. He's part of how this have come about and introducing me to Major King, and all of us have become friends. And so we're going to be doing this drive for Thanksgiving and Christmas. Again, there will be more information coming out. If you're on Facebook and you would like some of this information, please send us your email address and we'll make sure you get this information. So New Life, I'll be giving you more information about this because normally each year, many of us, we will go to shelters and places to help those for Thanksgiving, homeless, and for Christmas. We always do a coat drive. So because we're in this global pandemic, there's some things that we used to do that we can't do, but we're putting together this drive for Thanksgiving and Christmas, so you'll get more information about it. Thank you again, Major King. Give your closing remarks, and while you're doing that, everybody that's on tonight, please, again, you know our routine. Let's give Major King a shout out and thank him for coming and sharing his testimony, being transparent with us, not hiding anything, but trying to help others, make them feel like that they do have purpose, and for what he's actually doing with What's Next Vets. And so Vets What's Next. And so I'm gonna give you an opportunity to give your closing remarks. So if everybody can just give us Major King some shout outs while he give us his closing remarks.
Hey, thank you, Bishop. If you'd like to support Vets What's Next, as we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, Black owned, so you know that in order for a nonprofit to be successful, we welcome all donations, sponsors, ambassadors, etc. So you can go to www.vetswhatsnext.org. That's vetswhatsnext.org, and you can donate through there. The nice hoodie that myself and Bishop have on, we have other apparel. If you'd like to purchase some of their apparel, when you go to the website, just click on the shop button and you can make your purchase there. We do have a code that we're running right now, promo code VWN16. That's VWN16 for a promo code, which you will get 16% off of your purchase. The last thing I just have to say, Bishop, is for anyone who is going through anything, stay strong, don't give up, put God first. As I had to tell myself a long time ago, and it has worked for me well. I now walk by faith and not by sight. Don't give up on yourself. If you know anyone that's going through anything, love on them, embrace them. Don't be judgmental. Be there for them. And lastly, it is okay not to be okay. Now, what are you going to do about it? There's life after military.
Thank you so much. Now, those that want the information.
That's VWN, Victor Whiskey November, VWN16 promo code.
Okay. All right. And those, if you can see that, you can get that information. And thank you, Mike, for clearing this up about, we're going to do a veterans drive and adopt a family campaign. So you'll be getting more information on this New Life, and those that might want to be a part of contributing to a couple of families. I want to do at least a few families. I was praying this morning and the Lord laid a few on my heart. And so you'll be getting this information. And thank you again, all of you, for supporting us on our platform on Let's Talk About It. We don't know what next week is going to bring, but with the help of the Lord, we will be back with another guest this week. And again, Major King, thank you for taking your time out, sharing your story. I'm glad to be a part of your life. And I'm glad that God is using you in a mighty way. Your story is very powerful and impacting. And I know all of us tonight that are watching and that have heard you, we will leave out of this platform tonight the better, knowing that we have gained some information and we have been empowered to be able to help family members that's going through similar things that you talked about tonight, or if it's not a family member, it's a friend. So thank you again for all that you have opened up and shared with us for the last 2 weeks. And we'll definitely be in touch. We'll continue to talk because we're going to be doing some things. And so thank you, Facebook family, Zoom family, New Life family. Thank you again for supporting us on Let's Talk About It. And with the help of the Lord, hopefully we'll see you back next week with a different guest. But if it is, we will put out a flyer and let you know who will be our guest next week. So we love you. We bless you. We thank God for you. And we hope to see you next week. God bless you, Brother King.
Download the app. Download the Best What's Next app.
Okay, you can download that on your phone. Can you see it? If you, hopefully you can see it as he is holding it up. I'm going to download mine tonight. And each Thursday when we come, God gave me this platform to empower us while we're going through this global pandemic. A lot of us feel like there's nothing that we can do, but I believe the opposite. There's a whole lot we can do. We just need to apply ourselves and empower ourselves. And so this is part of my ministry is empowering others. The Bible says, because of lack of knowledge, we perish. And so we want to get as much information as we can so we can be empowered to go out and help others. And even if you can't, if God is not leading you to start an organization, you can always jump on board and help someone else in what they're doing. Even if they're in another state, you might say, well, what can I do? One way that you can be a blessing is you can give. And so that's why we have this platform, because there's so many organizations out here that's doing so many things, especially those Black organizations that sometimes don't get the spotlight. So we're trying to put the spotlight on those through Let's Talk About It. And again, thank you, Michael Sturtevant, for helping us and opening doors for people like Major King and others that we've had on this platform. And we're looking forward to many, many more to come. So God bless you. All of you have a great night. And we will see you Sunday morning at 10 a.m. for morning worship. God bless you. Love you.